Today, June the 16th, is National Youth Day in South Africa. The day marks the active role and participation of young people who marched against the Afrikaans language being used as the instructive language in schools. This year's theme is Skills for the Changing World, empowering youth for meaningful economic participation. Every Monday in June, On Point Business has been featuring panels of young people who work in or are studying economics to discuss current topics. Today we're looking at economic growth in the context of the theme, skills and education. Latest Stats SA figures showed that GDP growth in the first quarter of 2025 was subdued, coming in at 0.1% compared to the fourth quarter of 2024. Now, with agriculture coming in as the biggest contributing sector to this growth. Our guest today, Katlego Ledwaba, a master's student at the University of Pretoria, Mamaganse Meriki, a lecturer at UNISA's Economics Department, and Matshidiso Lenwasa, who's a chairperson of the Budget Justice Coalition and budget analyst at NPO Section 27. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us. I think let's start at the top with the first question, and I'm going to pose this to Katlego. According to Stats SA, Q1 youth unemployment came in at a staggering 46.1%. How vulnerable are young people in South African labour market? Do you think government's economic growth plan is delivering?
Well, thank you for the invite. And from my perspective, I think we as young people in South Africa are struggling with finding jobs because of poor economic growth and lack of skills. So in terms of the economic growth, it is difficult for these companies to expand their operations due to things like electricity shortage, which increases their costs. And as a result, they may end up reducing their production, which then leads to retrenchments. So there has to be an improvement on the current infrastructure. With respect to the skills, I think the universities and the college must get in touch with all the companies that are the potential employers to ensure that they teach what aligns with what they are looking for in the job market. And in terms of the government's growth, there are various programs that are aimed to equip the youth with skills. However, after acquiring the skills, it seems like most of them are not utilized. Thank you.
Mamagatse, can I ask you the same question? How vulnerable are young people in the South African labour market? And do you think government's economic growth plan is delivering?
Thank you. The vulnerability is very a paramount issue, especially at this time, because when you look at the long-term employment, about 75%, according to Stats SA from the report from May, 75.7% of unemployed youth have been jobless for a year or longer, making re-entry into the workforce increasingly difficult. And as a result, some of the youth, they tend to be discouraged and they don't even look for a job. And the report from Stats SA continue to tell us that about 2 million young people are classified as discouraged work seekers because most of them, like I said, they are discouraged from looking for employment since they can't find employment. And another issue as well is educational barriers. So youth without matric qualification face an unemployment rate of about 51%, while even those with matric face a high rate of 47%. However, tertiary graduates are far better, but we still see an unemployment rate of 23.9% from the tertiary graduates. So the government initiatives that is there, the other one that the president spoke about on the 2nd of June is the 200 new jobs in the schools. So now the government is initiating, taking the young youth, going back to
I'm sorry to butt in there, Mama Khansi, and our other guests. I'm going to have to cut in there, and we're going to cross live back to the Deputy President Paul Mashatile addressing Youth Day, people gathered for Youth Day today in the Northwest. Take a listen.
Trade unions, the churches, so it's going to be everybody. What we're trying to do is to come together as South African, talk about our challenges, but also solutions to our challenges. We want to come out of that dialogue and say this is indeed the South Africa we want to build together. That's really what we're going to do. The issue of the cost obviously will be looked upon by the Minister of Finance. And normally when there are activities like this, officials will start planning, will project the cost of accommodation, this and this. The Minister of Finance will finally decide whether funds are available in that regard, or we need to cut down. He will deal with that. Yeah.
Firstly, can I have an update on the Eastern Cape government's intervention in the Eastern Cape?
Yep.
Secondly, almost half of the youth in South Africa is unemployed.
Yeah.
How can the government of national unity look into this? It's concerning, really. And then thirdly and lastly, there's been criticism around work traveling costs as well. Can you give us an update on that?
What traveling costs?
Your traveling costs.
What about them?
As a deputy president, the traveling costs, you've been criticized for using an exorbitant amount of money to travel. Just an update on that.
Yeah, firstly, with the Eastern Cape, as you know, we are intervening to help people who are affected by floods. The president was there before he left for the G7 to go and assure the people that government is going to assist them. The ministers have been down there. Minister of Copter has been down there with other ministers. They are working with communities to see how we assist them. In the long run, we're going to try and see if we can get people out of the flood areas, because some of the people have built their houses in areas that are always flooded. So we're going to see how we can maybe relocate to much safer ground. So that work is continuing. With the question of travel, when we travel, arrangements are made by the officials in the presidency, where we're going to stay, how we're going to travel. As you know, me and the president currently, we travel commercial because we don't have proper aircraft that can take us to long destinations. And in terms of hotels, when we travel because we're doing work. So when people are booking these facilities, they're looking at what is it that I'm going to be doing. In the main, I've got meetings. I have to work. So they'll find a place which is suitable for me to be able to do work. I'm not traveling for leisure. You know, when you travel for leisure, all you need is a bed to sleep. But when you work, you need facilities. And that's why maybe it becomes costly. But so far, the Minister of Finance has not said we are beyond our budget in the expenses that we have incurred. If indeed they are beyond the budget, they can be reduced. But people must understand we are working. We are not on holiday. It's people who are on holiday who just need a bed. We need facilities to work. And those facilities include boardrooms, desks, for us to be able to hold meetings. And obviously we're going to cities that are very costly. And those of you who have been to Japan or France and those places, you will know what I mean. London, those cities are very, very expensive. But we will do everything in our power to ensure that we are not extravagant at all. Thank you very much. Anything else?
Last Deputy President,
yeah.
From Newsroom Africa. We just want to know what is the solution in terms of the high unemployment that we are faced with.
Oh yes. Yeah, I forgot that part. There are a number of programs that we are initiating. I spoke about the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative. I was 2 days ago at Harambee, where young people have come together to look at how they can access initiatives. And we are supporting them as government. We also have internships in government where we're bringing in young people. So the issue of youth unemployment is indeed a crisis that we want to deal with immediately. We are aware of it, and we are going to make sure that many of the programs that we come up with government must absorb young people into employment and opportunities, but also including entrepreneurship, where they themselves can start businesses, be supported by government, they'll be able to employ other people, but also we must give them skills to be able to start their own businesses and be able to employ other young people.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, once again, coming back to you now from where Deputy President Paul Mashatile has been addressing those gathered at the 2025 Youth Day commemoration taking place at the Northwest University's Potchefstroom campus. And we've got our three panelists today, and we are talking about some of those issues facing the youth in the country. And the Deputy President speaking about upskilling the youth. But I want to know from you, let's start with you, Matsidiso. This year's theme centred on skills and several youth skilling projects, including presidential or government intervention, as mentioned by the Deputy President. But why are they not delivering the required skills? What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to engage on this on Youth Day especially. It's a very important question because, yes, it sounds as though in terms of rhetoric, government seems to be committed towards upskilling the youth and ensuring that we are absorbed into the economy, and they use, terminology like inclusive economy. However, when in practice and when you look at the results from that, I think we can all agree that these interventions are not creating jobs at the rate that they should be, because the majority of young people in this country are unemployed. And so one of the areas that we think the reason for this is that these programs that are good programs and good ideas, they are deeply underfunded. And so it is something of this rhetoric, but the funding patterns behind that don't really follow through. For example, there's the Basic Education Employment Initiative, which is the biggest in the country of those sorts of interventions that creates teacher assistants in this country. And we know that our classrooms in the country are deeply overcrowded, and we do have a shortage of teachers, for example, but that program, for instance, last year was suspended and wasn't in operation without any reason. And I think that plus National Treasury's commitment towards reducing our expenditure does mean that they're not actually investing in creating opportunities for young people, which is then results in not just the young people being left behind in the economy, but also the economy that starts to not grow at the rate that it should be, because the majority of the country is actually being left behind. So it is very disappointing, but there is an opportunity there. With a year since the GNU, we're now reflecting on it was surprising that the budget would be the biggest points of contention for the GNU. Perhaps this could be an opportunity to dedicate resources to invest in young people, because really the economy is at the heart of our struggle.
Thanks very much for that input. And we're going to go back to Katlego now and just ask you, what economic areas should young people be focused on to help them to be more creative and help grow the economy where they are?
Well, for me, according from my perspective, for that to happen, there must be a platform enabling the youth to be creative. I mean, looking at our country, we have a quite number of minerals. And so if maybe those minerals were being processed within the country, then we should expect the livelihood of the people within those communities to improve, which may likely lead to less crime and improve the country's economic growth. So in terms of agriculture, I would say agro-processing, which involves turning raw produce into different products. So they can use these produce to create a variety of traditional foods.
And then back to you, Makhansi, your thoughts on what the role of higher education is in producing economic students and professionals who are able to provide solutions for growing the country's economy. Makhansi, we can't hear you. Could you unmute, please?
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, thank you. I'm going to refer to a study by the University of Stellenbosch Business School highlighting the troubled disconnect that even though higher education improves individual employability, it has had limited impact on national economic growth or reducing employment. The study found that individuals with education levels from grade 8 to grade 12 contribute more significantly to economic growth than those with matric or higher education. Does this show that if the skill mismatch persists with many graduates lacking the practical industry level skills needed to improve effective economic solutions? So why a person can ask, why must higher education be involved? The current model of higher education often emphasizes the theoretical knowledge over practical application. Therefore, there needs to be a collaboration between the private sector and the higher education to ensure that they are interconnected, that when we as the lecturers teach the student, we give them knowledge that will be needed immediately when they leave the university.
Well, some very interesting perspectives and valuable input there from our guests today. Thank you, Katlego Ledwaba, Makhansi Mareki and Machidiso Lenwasa.